Well, I don't know. Maybe. Oh well, yeah. There we go. We are now recording, everybody. Just so you know.
You know, it usually gives me a choice of recording to the cloud and recording to my hard drive, but I think I've got that cloud recording disabled here.
Fair enough.
If I did that.
No problem. Hello, Steve. I thought you were on a flight. Or have I got my days wrong?
I thought I was too,
Yeah.
but I'm not.
Because it's out. I know why. Because it says already on the agenda, on the minutes, apologies from Steve, he's on a flight.
Oh no, I've deleted that. I've updated it.
Well, I can see it loud and clear.
Hang on, what day are you on? Friday, 7th of July?
Yep. Which one are you?
Yeah, no, I've updated it. It doesn't say anything on mine.
Uh-oh. That's good. I got a bit of a flaw. Anybody else got the minutes open?
Let me see.
I'm opening them now.
And we'll kick off in another 1 minute, or as soon as Vanessa can join us again.
Anything about Steve being on a plane?
You can't see anything about Steve being on a flight.
Nope.
You need to refresh, I think, Philip.
Well, surely that would be unnecessary. I thought Google did all that lovely job on this for me. I'm refreshing.
It
That's
says it on Wednesday, July 5 down there. Maybe that's the confusion.
Oh, am I actually looking at Wednesday? I was. No, no, it did need refreshing. I had to refresh the page. It's now gone. There we go. Very strange. Right, attendees. So,
Good to see Moon again here, and Susanna.
right. I guess Vanessa is having connection problems because she was here for a. Well, there we go. Talk of the devil. Right. Hi, Vanessa. We're going to just have a quick round robin. So if I shout out the names, if in literally 10 seconds, I'll cut you off if you take longer. Just say hi and who you are and what you're doing. If that's good. Ben,
sure
10
Vanessa
seconds.
can hear us though first. Are you fully with us?
I am, at least for now. So
Cool.
hopefully the bandwidth will last.
Cool.
So we're just doing quick intros.
You can
So-
always try killing the video and just going audio only through your phone or whatever device that is. If the audio starts to get choppy, just stopping your video is an option. But it's nice to see.
And just for clarity, we are recording just so that people who can't make this call can watch this afterwards, which is standard for the Digital Life Collective. I think I told people that was happening. If I didn't, apologies. I hope you don't mind. Ben, 10 seconds on who, where, and why.
Yeah. Ben Roberts, I'm in Newtown, Connecticut, outside of New York City, part of the interim management circle for this and also the governance working group. And I'm passionate about virtual possibilities for new kinds of dialogue that create systemic transformation.
Blimey, beat that, Moon.
Okay, now I'm off mute. Moon Lee, I'm here in Chicago, Illinois. I'm a technical guy by trade, care a lot about privacy and digital freedom.
Thank you. And Sean.
Hello, I'm Sean Fenson. I'm here in Manchester, UK, and I'm a member of the Interim Management Circle and on the board of the Registered Cooperative in the UK, which is probably going to be just one of the many parts of this organisation as it grows.
Thank you.
Background. keen on the same things that everyone else is.
Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm in Cambridge in the UK. I'm multitasking a little bit right now, which is why I've got my camera turned off. I'm also on the Interim Management Circle and on the board of the UK Cooperative. And yeah, very interested in all of this and trying to blend it with a portfolio of too many other things.
Thank you very much. Michael?
Michael, I'm West Coast Canada, Vancouver Island. My main occupation is thinking up virtual money systems.
Thank you. Jim? You're on mute.
Hi, Jim Whitescarver. I'm retired in Florida. I'm in the governance working group, social ledger, identity, and trying to help us build a collective intelligence here.
Thank you very much. Steve?
Hi, Steve Taylor. I'm in charge of marketing at Linaro, which is an open source collaborative engineering company based in Cambridge, UK, in the interim management circle on this and lurking on most of the other groups and other places and chipping in when I can. And just got back from Taiwan last night. So a bit jet lagged.
Okay, thanks. Joachim?
Hi, Joachim Stroh. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. My background is in computer science, knowledge management, so I always try to bridge the gap between the user and the interface and the technology and the application, how we're going to use the technology. So early member of the collective here and looking forward to this discussion today.
And given the topic of the discussion today, we've invited Susanna and Vanessa to join us. So this is their first Digital Life Collective Zoom. Susanna, can you say hi and follow suit here? That'd be great.
Yeah, hi, I'm Susanna Clements. I'm also in Cambridge in the UK. There's obviously a small number of us over here. I have spent my career in human resources, so and I now run my own headhunting business. And I know Steve for a whole series of things, and I'm very interested in the digital world, which is why he suggested that I come along.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Vanessa.
Oh, is it my turn?
It is Vanessa. Yeah, I said last but not least.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Vanessa. I have bandwidth issues. I feel like this is a support meeting on mobile, but I build online communities since ARPANET, and I think a lot about research I do, and I teach at Columbia. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us. So given the topic, and I know who's put the stack together, Joachim, do you want to take it from here, if you will, sir?
All right, let's take it from here. Let me share my screen. See if I can go to presentation mode. Everybody see this screen, the first slide here?
Perfect.
Great. I know this thing has a laser pointer too. Let me try this out. You see this too?
Yeah, look at that.
All right, cool. Thanks everyone for joining today. A big crowd, love it. So let me talk about something we've been developing in the collective. It's called the social ledger. And let me give you some more context here on today's call, because I know we have some experts here in terms of what social capital is about. So if I look at this slide here, the typical 3 Venn diagram circles, we have financial capital, assets, liabilities, equity stuff, human capital over here, right? People, process, and structure. But this is about this third one here, which is social capital. And I'm defining it here as relationships, cooperation, and value exchange. So there are a couple of things, linked to social capital. And I'm just bringing them up here as an example. And you will see that reflected a bit in the software piece we're putting together and prototyping in the collective. And without getting into too much detail, so it has to do with the binding bridging of members, the psychological safe spaces we create, reciprocity, so responding to requests and being there, being present for others in the collective, the participation and the levels of commitment that members have, diversity and the belonging and the stewardship of the platform and of other services we provide. So there are many definitions of social capital here. I put one up here in the corner here. What to me is important is the effects it has, on the members, on the health, on the relationships, on what we can achieve together. So that's the part I wanted to drill down here today and tell you more about it. If you have any questions, feel free to jump in. This is not a sequential thing. We can always stop and talk about the details here. All right, so we came up with an idea. Some scratching. Now it's better. So yeah, if you don't use your phone, your mic, better turn it off. You can mute it in the lower left corner. There's this mute button. So we came up with this notion of a what's called a slash command, a webhook. That's available in a lot of these online collaborative platforms that you see. Slash has this feature, and
Slack.
MetaMost, Slack, and MetaMost, that's the platform we are using for online collaboration, has that feature. And it's a simple way to give a command to a system, and then it comes back with some results. And you'll see how we're going to use that. So it's a simple command. And it's also a way to provide a feedback loop between teams and the community organization, and move them into what I call passive lurking. Although lurking I don't like too much. It's more, there's the 99.1 pyramid always, right? Where you have the 90% at the bottom, they are lurking there. To me, I mean, these are people that are learning more than lurking, right? So they want to see what's going on, but they're not sure, not ready to jump in yet. Maybe there's some missing in action. There's some tasks they wanted to work on, but not sure where to start. So the idea here is to sort of draw them more into the organization and into an activity that they can take part in. All right, so quick slide here on why are we doing this? And I'll step you through a couple of things here. One which I call working in the flow.
Joachim, sorry, can I just check? Are your slides behind your speaking? I'm on the t-shirt slide now.
Okay, let's see. Let me wait a few seconds. Do you see a big wave?
That's you. That's your.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a wave. Okay,
There
got
we
the
go.
wave now.
You've just got a little bit of latency in Cambridge, obviously.
Okay, sorry.
Good. So we're all riding the waves now. So a couple of things I wanted to step you through here. One is called working in the flow. That's a way to see a system like inside the way you're working. And I have a slide for that to detail that. Another one is content weaving, something I've been involved for many years, to bring people together in these new stream ways of working, right? So we see activity streams, we see Slack streams, and extracting content and meaningful text out of these streams and weaving that together. That to me is part of this little side project. Then smart teams, you'll see how we use that to assemble teams in the collective. And then we go into some other things like the value that they create, the value exchanges of the members. And then finally, taking a step back and looking at inter-cooperative flows. So between other cooperatives, between other collectives, how information can flow, how we can vision this, taking on a larger, picture, operating on a larger scale. All right, so that's the overview. Let me give you some more details on each of these items here. Why are we doing this, and why this is so interesting to us to move that kind of thing forward. This is a slide that talks about working in the flow. So by in the flow, I mean this green band here in the center, right? So it's what I'm working on right here on my screen, in my app, wherever I am, right? So I can start to share some of my work. I can post things, I can ask questions, I can get responses. That is opposed to stuff that it's called above the flow. So places where I have to go, extra logins, extra forms to fill out, extra processes and steps I have to go through. What I want to try with this application is really to have it as much as possible inside the flow. So where you sit down, where you work, where you chat with your colleagues, pull up the application, make an update, and then go right back into the flow of your work. That's the idea. And that's also obviously stuff that's hidden from flow, right? There's stuff in sitting information silos, or there's these narrow email communication channels where nobody else knows that you're involved in some activity here. And you will see that this system tries to make it more open, more accessible to anyone in the collective. Alrighty. Second part is talked about content weaving. So a simple definition is just the capacity of an online collective to co-create something beautiful. And by that I mean, if you look at this picture here, all of these threads here, these are the separate streams or conversations that are happening in these collaboration environments. And to me, what is really critical here is what I call a weaving activity. So you take these streams and, somebody said something important and an idea came up, or a plan is developed, that you can quickly assemble that plan and put it back into the stream. That's the weaving part. And then you can pull it back at any time if you need to revisit the plan, if you need to revisit the idea, or move it further, or share it with other people across the collective. So that to me is a critical component. And I believe, we are at a point now where these streams are fairly mature. A lot of organizations are using tools like Mattermost, tools like Slack. The critical piece here is to say, how can we weave these ideas together? Because, if you're familiar with these tools, things are rushing through them very quickly. The next day there are 10, 20, 100 new messages, and you're losing track of what's happening there, and they're just gone. So you have to really change the way of working and introduce some new things, like what I'm trying to do with content weaving here, to keep people in the loop. Okay, next one. I'm waiting a few seconds now. Everybody see this green thingy, the circle thingy? Good.
Probably not in Cambridge.
Oh, Cambridge got it too. Excellent. Another thing we are exploring with the social ledger is what I call smart teams here. So bringing the best talent together to work together on new projects. We're still prototyping a lot around the social ledger. Here's the screenshot, and I will show you how that looks like in the real application in a second. But what happens here is we assemble teams on the fly, and they start to work together on certain activities. And I'm calling it smart teams because the moment you do this, you connect people, and there's a network that you create, and the strength and the weight of the connections inside the network increases, and that information helps you for ongoing and future team formation processes. So based on, let's say, I worked on a vegetable garden action document with Jim, myself, and Michael. We have that connection now, and we know how we work together, so I can use that information for a new project that's coming up in the collective, right? So it's very dynamic and very ad hoc assembly of teams that becomes possible through something like the social ledger. If we zoom out a little bit here, you should see a slide with a lot of circles here. You can see that there's always this past, present, future split. So there's things that are happening in the future, in the near future. There's an event horizon here that says, okay, we want to develop something, we want to create something, we want to build something for the collective, right? But it's kind of fuzzy still, and we don't know who's involved and who's part of the team, and what kind of skill sets do we need for that. So that's this circle on the right side in gray. But once you have that, and you begin to commit yourself and commit team members to the work, it becomes more obvious. And to me, at that point, it needs to be really transparent to the rest of the collective. What are you currently working on, right? And what are the steps that people took, and where are they in executing a plan, let's say, right? So that moves into a present field. And from there, it goes into sort of a record, a long-term record, past record, that contains all of the archives, all of the activities here you see that would happen in the collective. So that's kind of the value exchange you could instigate through a system like the social ledger. And then zooming out one more time, promise that's the last zooming out, then you can see what this is about. What happens actually if you take now, let's say, the Digital Life Collective, that's this green bubble here with all of our activities and projects that we have running inside, and connect to other collectives, so other cooperatives that are out there, right? And there's a certain exchange of information that can happen too, you know. So tell me all of the activities you're currently working on and the people who are involved in that. Maybe that's relevant, that's important to people in this collective. And you can start to share information and to exchange stuff and to learn from each other. So that's kind of the broader, wider picture here of kind of making contact. There's this quote from Carl Sagan in the movie I love a lot, Contact. It's really to reach out and to figure out what are these problems, how can we solve them together and bring people together. That's one of the ideas of this. Okay, so let's see how are we getting there. So what I will show you is how we work inside what's called channels and domains in Mattermost. And I will show you how to link across, by space and time, I mean different spaces inside Mattermost, and bringing important documents back from the past, into the present, and then you can continue working on them and sharing that information. And then you'll see. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to give this a dimension in terms of size, we're working here not just to scale to thousands or tens of thousands. The idea is that the scaffolding, for want of a better word, that we put in place now should allow for hundreds of thousands of, not just members, which implies a certain passivity, but hundreds of thousands of participants of all variety of activity levels, I guess, but so that anyone can feel like that they can make a difference as and when they're able to.
Right.
And that's an astonishing ambition, because we know that there are social networks out there with hundreds of thousands, if not billion people on Facebook. But how can we harness that collective distributed organization to achieve a common mission based on shared values? And I guess that's what we're trying to target. So I just wanted to just interrupt there very quickly, Joachim, just to give it some kind of scale context.
Sure. Thanks, Philip. Alrighty, demo time. Let me switch here, go to the social ledger thing. Okay, so you should see a different screen now, which is Mattermost. So that's our social collaboration tool. Our activity stream, all of the conversations are flowing through Mattermost inside the collective. And the way we've structured is, there's a couple of domains, what we call them, the left side. And that's something actually Slack does not have. It doesn't have that domain feature. It goes right into channels. And everything is in a channel in Slack. So you have, after a short time, you have hundreds of channels here. With Mattermost, you have the ability to create these domains, and they can be, about the collective. We have a finance team, we have a governance team. So a high-level structure of the organization to find your way around, right? To know where to go and which team to look for. So one of them here is our practices area, where we try out new things, and we call them labs for testing new prototypes and having conversations with other people who are interested in this kind of thing. And what I want to show you here is there's one called the Vegetable Garden Lab. So that's our testing environment for the social ledger. And let me make that screen a little bit bigger here so you can see what's going on. Okay. All right. So what you have in Mattermost are these channels here, right? So, and each channel can represent a work group. I mentioned a lab in this case here, but it can also be a more concrete circle. You know, a circle like in the sociocratic sense of a bunch of people working together inside a group with an agreement of producing some value for the collective. So let's dive into this vegetable garden lab. And I mentioned the dig live command, right? So all you have to do is type dig live here, and then you can issue a simple command like members, and see what's going on in terms of who is currently working in the vegetable garden lab. So I see a list here now of 4 circle members, right? So there's Ben, there's Jim, there's me, and there's Michael in this garden. And we have something called a circle role and a circle level. So circle roles are just 4 simple ways of defining what is typically present in a circle. So there's a lead role, there's an admin role, there's a member role, and there's a link role. And we're not as strict as other sociocratic principles, like holacracy is an example where you have to have certain roles. They must be defined, and they have certain kinds of meetings and certain kind of structures. This is more open, where you say, okay, let's just assemble a team, bring people together, and then have a chat about what kind of role you want to take on in that team. And you can define yourself, what does it mean to be an admin? What does it mean to be a lead link? And similarly on the circle level, that's kind of the skill level people bring to the collective. Are you more a starter, a novice, regular, leader, or elder here? So we define five levels for that. And this is all happening inside the context of the garden lab. And that's very important for us for the social ledger application. The context defines who you are. So now you're in the vegetable garden. So we're looking for gardening skills, obviously, right? So we can see I'm a novice here for gardening, right? And I can see Michael. He's the absolute expert in gardening. So he's leading, and he's also bringing in a lot of skill sets to run this garden lab. So if I want to look at, say, where is Michael in the bigger picture of membership inside the collective, I can now click on one of the links. So that was assigning Michael to a lead, which he already is, and now I can see a different picture. I can see here's Michael as part of a collective of people that are all linked together, and you can see Philip over here, and I am over here. They linked together because they decided to work in these circles, so in these work groups, so in these laboratories that we have. And as soon as you're in there, are present and start to work on activities, these links establish automatically for you. So you can see between me and Mike and Jim, we have this is like a triangle here. It's a very strong link because obviously we're testing a lot in the system. And there's a lot of going back and forth. So we're all members of multiple activities across the collective. And that's an indicator to say, hey, these guys are working really well together. At least I hope so, right, guys? And we could work on future projects together, right? Because there's some things we're actively doing now. Well, it's a great team to work together in other areas. But the same is true for other members of the collective, right? We're still prototyping right now, but if you picture this with 100 or 1,000 people, you'll start to see some patterns here, right? Between groups that are highly connected, and also, let me see, there's another one. Where did that go? Let me refresh this, because there's another one that's here it is. You see that guy disappearing on the right side? Let me bring it back here. These guys. So that's the group that's sort of disconnected. That means they decided to start to boot up some work group, and none of them is linked to any of the other members, right? So that's another sign of, hey, look at these guys. Maybe one of them should be a link into one of the other circles or activities that are happening. So we know actually what's working, what's happening across the collective. That's the purpose of this. Okay.
They look a lot less stressed than the others.
Yes, right. Maybe they want peace and quiet, and that's it. All right, so that was a look at the members and how they're connected. How are we doing on time?
I tell you what, let's go for another 3 or 4 minutes just to explain the full vocab of the dig life, the /dig life command line as it stands today, and then we'll open it out and have a good ding dong.
Sounds good to me. All right, so we looked at members. Now let's take a look at the activities, right? So what you can do is type something like dig actions, and that gives you back the actions that are currently happening in the garden again. So here's the vegetable garden, and there's always some tilling, some watering going on, and some garden actions. So if I click on any of those, this could bring me to another document where we describe some of the activities, or it could bring me to an action plan that I created inside the flow, inside the activity stream earlier. And on the right side, here's an interesting piece which we call level of commitment. So for each of these activities, I would simply declare, what's my level of commitment to this activity. And we defined five levels here. I'm using these emojis here to say from left to right, this is easy task, sleepy, this is okay, oh, this is some sweat I put in here, lots of sweat, and this is my dizzy face here. You go tilt when you go that far, right? Anyway, so this is just a declaration. And then you can say, okay, these garden actions, where does it happen in the broader context of the collective? So again, I can click on a link, and it brings me now into the collective circle structure. So here is now a picture of, okay, the vegetable garden action is one activity, right, out of many that are happening inside the collective, right? So I can zoom in here. I can see now in the vegetable garden lab, there are lots of things happening, small circles, meaning less commitment, larger circle, larger commitment. And we built this over time, and you can see now, okay, there's other stuff happening inside the vegetable garden, things like not only activities in terms of plans, but also group norms you set up, or documents you create, and other help information for the team. And you can zoom out and say, okay, let me take a look at the broader picture of the practices area. So there's actually the social ledger lab over here. There's a HiveMind lab. I can zoom in here, and I can see, oh, there are other activities in the HiveMind lab going on. And you could look into those and see what these guys are doing. Again, the whole idea is to keep all of these activities fairly transparent without providing too much detail, without having people to fill out large forms or spend too much time in that. But just a little bit, and it's in the flow of where they work, so that you can get an idea of what are these guys working on. Here's the website crew. This is me working on the new website. So there's some activities around that, around some Ghost implementation and so forth. So that's the bigger picture, and I think I'll stop here.
Thank you, Joachim. That was a lovely overview and slightly deeper dive into how we might execute the stuff you took us through up front. So let's open it out. Now I'm going to propose that we take a lead from Edward de Bono here, who said that we should all start with positive thoughts, and then we can start to look at the more negative critiques. Apparently, if you do it around the other way, it's very difficult to be positive after being negative. So I'm told.
I think it's worth mentioning that actions are only one of the things. There's also norms, and there's goals, and there's documents that can be associated with the circle, and are part of the social ledger of what's happening in all the activities of all the circles in all the domains.
So, any general upbeat comments first, if you don't mind, before we kick the tires a little bit more aggressively? Anyone want to go?
I just say I think the presentation was great. Thank you. I really liked the focus on staying in the flow. And I think that's a very 21st century way of looking at how we can organize ourselves and work together. So that was really strong for me.
Thank you.
I'm astonished by by all the stuff. I'm struggling to. I mean, this is a positive comment. I'm struggling to get a grip on it, to be honest. But yeah.
Any more for anyone?
There was a lot of zooming
so
in and
I'll
zooming
say
out.
something.
Yes.
So the thing that I really liked was the pictorial thing about the network. First of all, it's really cool how it moves, but I just love the fact that you can actually see who's networked with whom in such a simple way. And it really brought it to life for me. And I think that's one of the difficulties about a lot of the channels is that they're linear. So you can see lots of names and so on, but you don't know who's interconnected with who. To me, that was really powerful.
Yeah, and I like the fact that that's not representing, oh, Philip followed Joachim. What does that actually mean? What it mean when you see that graph, what you're actually seeing is Philip is working with Joachim, and that's what it's picking up on, and that's a powerful mechanism. Although I guess that'd be interesting to see how that graph would change over time. What happens if you and I, Joachim, were working together last month, but we're not currently this month? How does that relationship dissolve over time? Or, I don't know, it's an interesting challenge. Otherwise, by definition, we just keep drawing edges and then every node's connected to everyone else, and then that loses its usefulness. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, go ahead. Who was talking?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that this is probably a banal comment, but maybe worth saying because sometimes it's important to say obvious things. That if we are talking about scaling, then we are going to need graphic representations of things. We are going to need ways to look at things whereby our eyes can take in a whole very quickly. And notwithstanding the point about the flow, which I don't think I really get. I can kind of see where it's going, but as it were, as a flow, I don't really understand yet how that's actually going to work in anger, as it were. But that thing of being able to scale out and scale in again, and take the helicopter up very high and then come back down in a different place. Those are precisely the kinds of things that we're going to need. And as I said before, an astonishing array of stuff already done there. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah.
Can I just make the point that it is astonishing? Partly because the element in this, the scaffolding system that Joachim put here, he's then built a structure with that just to show you how it works. So it's like he's taken some scaffolding poles and run a route up Mount Everest. So when you look at these graphics, and particularly the one there about allocating value to a transaction or an event, you're looking at just one implementation of a totally general tool. So be amazed by the weirdness and complexity. That's just Joachim's mind at work. It will become more transparent as it widens out.
And he's always a step ahead too. He's already started work on archiving and resurrecting activities.
More like 5 steps ahead, right? It's also just beautiful, to look at and simple to engage with, even though there's a lot of depth and complexity. And I'm kind of with Sean that until we really get in there and start using it for real stuff, it'll be hard to fully appreciate or evaluate what you've done. But I just want to know how visually.
Yeah.
It's just occurred to me that it's not so much an organization of people and organizing that purports and attempts to be open and transparent, because actually we know lots of organizations out there at the moment say, yes, we're open and transparent and with flat hierarchy, etc., etc. But what you're actually doing here by giving individuals the lens that they need to navigate the entirety of the collective as they see fit isn't just open and transparent. It actually changes, I think, the the frame of mind that the individual has about what it means to be a member of this organisation. It's actually a psychological transformation, if only perhaps because many of our members will otherwise be working for a living in an organisation in which they are, it's a horrible word, institutionalised into the way organisations should otherwise work. And then they'll come to this of an evening, of a weekend, or whenever they have some time to contribute, and suddenly think, wow, well, why doesn't my workplace give me this facility to navigate who I'm creating mutual value with? This is just, I genuinely think it just changes people's mindset and would become potentially infectious, if only because it still remains such a new experience for the vast majority of people of working age.
Yeah, I think it's the edge between this me and the we frame, the ability to comprehend the we-ness from the identity. So it brings a connection between some different levels of behavior.
Okay, so Edward de Bono was right. We've just had a great big group hug. A nice bit of self-love in there. Lovely, awesome. So what happens if you started a sentence with the word but? I see, Ben, actually, you've already kind of done that over in chat.
It's and rather than but.
And. Okay, sorry to prefix your contribution, please. Can you explain what you were saying?
Sure. You were talking about a scale, Philip, of hundreds of thousands of people, who would then be grouped into thousands of different circles and teams with millions potentially of activities and things. And my sense is that the tool as it stands now won't scale anywhere near that.
I can see Moon mentally nodding to that one.
Probably doesn't scale beyond 1,000 people, and even that could be pretty crazy unless we're really disciplined about how we parse out our activities there. So the concepts, I think, potentially can work, although there may be some other layers of organizing structure that are necessary to navigate that level of complexity. Obviously search, but something much more than that probably, including human processes. So I guess that's the other thing I would say, is that all this is beautiful, and it's the human interactions and our sets of agreements and practices and how we decide to operate and how much we're aligned on what we want to do as a whole and in various subgroups that really drives all this. This is a tool, a set of tools designed to support that, but it doesn't make that happen by itself. It's not a substitute for our bringing ourselves as people together with a set of intentions and talking to each other, whether it's in text or verbally, etc., to really continuously build and develop.
I'd like to disagree with you, Ben. I mean, it seems to me that we're already bringing ourselves and we're throwing them into these various channels, and I, for one, am completely and utterly lost. I find it really very difficult to keep a grip on all those channels, and my only way of dealing with it is just to think, right, well, the things I'm responsible for, the things I need to worry about are this, this, and this, which is fine in a sense because you can get stuff done that way. But it means that I have no overview whatsoever of what's going on. And as I said before, if I'm going to have an overview, I'm going to need some kind of way of, I'm going to need to be able to visualize it and zoom in and out. And I would think that once you have some way of visualizing activity, then if you can go up and up and up and up and up, then, whoa, you can scale to whatever size you want to scale to. So I don't think scalability is the issue. My problem, and by the way, however, but and are all logically equivalent notions. My problem is with the notion of tokens. That thing right at the core of what's going on there, at least it seems to be, I don't get that. I don't think that we can pick up on the notion of human motivation in that way. And the motivation is what it's all about in the end. That's what we need. And I think we're chasing the wrong rabbit on that.
And now I know that there are at least 3 people on this call who would like to respond to Sean. But as a moderator here, can we just store that one and explore any other buts that we have before we might have time to return to that one, or perhaps explore that on a subsequent call, if that's okay with everybody? Because I know that we could easily do another 60 minutes on just that slight objection. So let's just store it for a moment and see what other kicking of the tires we can do on any other aspect that we've seen today.
So could I just, some of this is a question rather than necessarily a but when I look at it, I'm not sure, once you get down to that level, you've sort of almost passed the test. So I was looking down the channels, there are lots of projects which I have no idea from the title what they are. So I'm not sure that, how do I get there? And I mean, I don't know if I can pull down and there's a little description of each of those, which tells me what it is. But there's lots of, I guess my issue is one of language, which is calling things the hive and so on, might mean something to people who are already networked, who already speak the same language. I mean, I'm actually talking, everybody speaking English, but subsets of English. I'm not even thinking about when people don't speak English either. So my question is, how immediately accessible is it to draw you in so that you want to do all the things that Joachim is enabling us to do? And that may be a project which is happening somewhere else, but for me, I'm just looking at that going, this is brilliant, but how do I get down this far?
I think you're sort of zeroing out on the part that we're making a map, and the map is not the territory. I think Ben was saying the same thing in part, that this doesn't replace the other processes that are going on. It only augments it. It's I'm not concerned about scalability, because I know there's the same people here that are in my other communities, Archain and Divi and CodeCloud, and eventually we'll have links between them, and we can map the whole thing out, and you can navigate among all the communities in the way that Joaquin has set up.
Yeah.
And it's ultimately a lot of information, but it is navigable, and so it's scalable.
Yeah. Can I make the suggestion that this isn't so much about people come to the collective and then use this tool to find out what they want to do and how to do it, although that will be part of it. I think it's more that projects come to the collective and find this tool enhances both their internal process and their relationship to the whole. So I'd look at this as, this is perhaps the first product of the collective, is what Joachim's put together here.
I think that's interesting. I mean, I agree. I don't think it's something you'd come to on sort of day one of the collective, and I'm like a couple of years, I'm less interested actually in the question of how we scale to really huge size. I'm more concerned about how we get from the 10 of us who might show up on a well-populated Zoom call to say 150 people who are active. And I think this looks like it might be a useful fit in there.
Very much.
It's not the big picture, right? I don't have time to do the big picture. I think one of our key challenges is how do we go from most of the 10 of us here, or however many often show up, are in pretty much all of our groups. They're in all of Mattermost, they're everywhere. How do I manage to say, you know what, I'm only interested in these 2 bits. Those are where I'm going to live. I don't care about the rest of it, right? I don't want to see the network. I just want to do my bits, and to know that the bits that are linked to my bits connect in some way. And this feels like it doesn't address the question of how does my little team get the information it needs from other teams that are related without me having to zoom all the way out. And just to sort of follow on, my other little bit of a worry is this is all super technical and focused on tasks. And I think that's good, and goodness knows we need it. But I think it's missing something social. It's not just about what motivates us, but I think how do we grow as a team who feel like a team? How do we grow, or as a set of teams, how do we make people, and again, I'm thinking about my kind of 10 to 150 scale, you know, how do we make that feel like something you want to be part of, rather than an alien collective of people who are gardening and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but which I don't actually feel a personal commitment to.
Right. These are great points, Laura. And, you know, to address one of them, you know, it's the first task is really, you know, to get to know each other. You know, you find some people, and it's not that you set up some structure for you, it's getting to know your other folks and talking about what actually you want to do into that work group or the laboratory, whatever you want to do. And the rest is secondary, really, right? Once you've done that, you want to declare to the rest of the collective, hey, there are 5 people working together. And we have named actually that thing. And then to Susanna's point, we have created a short manifesto or purpose of our little circle here. Say, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to achieve, right? And that's all we want to share at that point, right? That's your first concern. And the social part is super important for me because I've done a lot of work in social collaboration, and social is that piece that a lot of organizations are missing. The second part is, and that's something that Sean also mentioned earlier, is you work on the level where you are comfortable with, okay? Most of the people who work inside the team, inside the circle, that's it. They stay there and they work there. They have no interest in looking, you know, a little bit higher and see what's going on across the entire domain, right? Or take an even higher step, what's going on across the entire collective, right? So, for example, I'm in all of the teams here, right? I have the entire information flow coming into my screen here every day, and I love to sort of jump in and bathe in that information stream, right? And others don't, right? And that's totally fine. They can stay and they just pick the level they are most comfortable with, right? And where I see this going even higher is, there's a guy called Derek Sivers. He's a musician and also a programmer, an interesting person. And he came up with an idea that he said one day, okay, I want to know what projects people are working on around the globe in the music area, you know, in the independent musician area. And he said, why don't you go to your website and have a /project folder to share what you're working on. As simple as that, right? And he knows a lot of people. What happened next was just astounding. There were hundreds and hundreds of websites around the world adding this projects folder to their website, and people could just go /project, you know, on their website, and they openly shared what they're currently working on, right? So coming back to a tool like this, where I can see us doing a very similar thing to say, hey, here's a cool way we're sharing information. It's open source, by the way. You can install it on your Slack or MetaMost thingy, and just standardize, say where do you, right? And then we'd be able to zoom out of our collective and suddenly see lots of other collectives. What are they working on? Because it's using the same ways of sharing that kind of information. So that's yet another level up I can see here, where you can see globally what are people working in these collectives, right? So it's no end to that. Muted, Philip.
I've just shared a URL. Is that the right one? Can you see it in chat, Joachim?
Yeah, servers don't open.
Okay, cool, perfect. We have 4 minutes to possibly even 3.5 minutes to the top of the hour. So has anybody else got a comment that they're burning to?
Yeah, you parked my point, and it's now beginning to rust in the corner of the car park. So when do we return to that point? I appreciate that it may be a big one.
I think that we don't have time to do it now, Sean, but we need to find time, schedule another Zoom to explore this further, at least some of the, to celebrate the positives and to start addressing the criticisms that are valid, that we need to sort of take into account. We just don't have time on this call. I guess what I was trying to do is make sure that everything was coming out in this call so that we can then work out between us how we might address them.
Can I make another positive point, please?
Oh gosh, go on then.
Yeah, which is just to say that, I mean, it seems to me that, you know, when you look at the problem of organisations, what's the biggest single problem of organisations other than communication? It is alienation, isn't it? It is the sense in which people feel alienated from the structures of the organisation and and unable to get a grip on what the organization is. The bigger the organization, the more that alienation is there. And having a transparent organization where you can try and make some sense of that transparency rather than the complexity overwhelming you, seems to me to be an entirely noble thing for us to be trying to do. So I think, this is clearly a step in that direction. So, I mean, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, just very briefly, the concern that the word token is used behind the scenes here, so to speak, currently, in that, when you specify a level of commitment, it's within the circle notion of how much sweat is put in. Is it simply a means of quantification? We're not trying to replace the monetary system here yet. Okay.
So
Jim, some kind of task reward.
So may I suggest on that point that actually, in terms of the format we've run today, we actually do another one, whether it's in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks' time, and an hour's dedicated to this question of what do we mean by tokens. Ben, you had your hand up.
I just was going to add in terms of that concern or the questions about scaling or any number of other things that we've named or that we haven't even occurred to us yet, that we'll be able to engage this a lot more meaningfully when we start using the tool. And so I think we want to get as quickly as possible to a place where it feels like it's safe enough to try in some real context. Vegetable gardening is wonderful, and some of us like vegetables. And we're doing actual work. So, I think it's in the use of this. And if we can put some boundaries around that are appropriate to the concerns people have so that it feels like we can start to play and learn from that, the conversations will be much more meaningful. We can talk in abstract about this forever, but, we have other things. We have an organization to build.
Just to say that I believe some of us are going to carry on with a conversation about possibilities in the next little while, and there will be conversation about tokens during that possibility conversation too.
Joachim, assuming people might have some more ideas immediately after this synchronous get-together, which channel should we be in to continue the conversation asynchronously about this Zoom?
We can go to one of the open chats. If you're not familiar with Mattermost, then just go to the collective open chat. Top left is the domain, right?
Ben, did you have, because you started some other
Well, the Treehouse
channels.
is open right now.
Treehouse.
Hanging out there. So, it was sort of reserved for a unit of the possibility conversation, but my guess is the garden's going to be available for another group to engage in that. So
how about the Treehouse? Because it just sounds too tempting, Joachim. What do you think?
Sounds good.
So if anyone who wants to hang out in the
another one too, I limit ourselves to three.
And how do we find the Treehouse?
What about being totally disruptive and doing it in something that's got totally the wrong name?
It's just there must be an existing channel where is it in the governance domain? Would that be the best place to put it then, to Sean's point?
Well, there's the social, why not the practices the social ledger lab, Joachim, no?
Yeah, they can come over to the lab, of course. Yeah, doors are always open.
Okay, there we go, everybody. You heard it here last.
and just a quick note on these, the Treehouse Garden Salon idea, right? The notion is that sometimes we want to get into a pretty intense exchange on some subject. And if we do that in a channel, even if it's a conversation that's quite germane to that channel's purpose, we're going to fill that channel up. And if you want to get to anything else that was in there, you're going to have to do a lot of scrolling, and it can drown out other important things. So it's the idea is if we can get into the practice of, hey, I want to have a pretty, serious back and forth on this. All right, we'll go over to the Treehouse and do it. And
that's
you can reference that with some links. You can even post a little abstract back to your main channel. But I think that would really enhance the functionality of a tool like Mattermost or Slack, because I think it's one of its biggest limitations is how, is what happens otherwise, with these, because we need this balance between more synchronous kinds of conversations and less synchronous ones, right? So that's another way to look at it. If you want to have a really synchronous conversation, try it in a fun place and then pull it back to the main domain.
It's 5% run over. It's going to be 3 minutes past the hour. I will be losing marks for meeting chairing at this rate. So I shall draw it to a close. Thanks, Susanna, for joining us. Oh, you're always welcome to hang out whenever you fancy. It's lovely to have you with us today.
Michael, are you staying on the call?
I
And
am.
I'll follow up with Vanessa as well. So I'm going to leave the meeting because I have to shoot. Whoever's Ben, if you could kill the recording so we've got different files, that would be super.